IP address, or an Internet Protocol address, is a unique address for each device on a network, and it's used when transmitting data using the TCP IP protocol. And to understand more about that, please look at one of our videos on the TCP IP protocol. So unlike a MAC address, which again, if you're not sure what of those are, have a look at our video on the respective bit. They are not linked to the network interface card, and they can be changed as and when necessary. Devices such as servers will require what's called a static IP address, as in one that won't ever change, whereas most devices like laptops, smartphones, etc. will have a dynamically assigned IP address, so each time they connect to a network, a new address is assigned to them. So the key thing to understand about the difference between a MAC address and an IP address is that whereas a MAC address is when that particular electronic device is made, the MAC address is assigned then. On a IP address, it can dynamically change quite frequently. So to understand a bit more about IP addresses, we need to know that there are actually two different types of IP address that we now have in existence. An IPv4 address, which is the old type of IP address, and an IPv6 address. So IPv4 is the most common one that you're going to be asked about. And it consists of 32 bits, and they're represented as 4 decimal numbers, or what we call octets. So a good example of an IP address is the one that you can see on the screen in front of you, 192.168.0.17. Some of you may sort of consider, well, actually, if it's 4 bits, if it's made up of 4 bits, that means that, 32 bits, that means that within each part of an IP address, each part consists of 8 bits. So the largest number that you can generate for each part of an IP address is 255, 8 bits to generate the number 255. 256 possible values if you allow for 0, but 255 is the highest number. So an IP address range would be from 0 to 255 for each part of these IP addresses. Now, one of the things to sort of understand about is that when we have an IP address range, and when they were first invented, the 32 bits gives us about 4.3 billion possibilities or possible addresses. It does sound like an awful lot, but if we think about now the number of devices that are connected to networks, and it's not just the number of computers, it's the number of smartphones, it's the number of Internet of Things devices like your smart fridges and your smart TVs and your embedded chips inside cars as well. There are many billions more devices needed to be connected to the internet. So the concept of the IPv6 was developed, which uses 128 bits instead, so 4 times the amount of data. It will often be represented as a hexadecimal value. You can do a quick Google search and find an example of one, but just to understand that it is a wider range of IP addresses to account for the fact that there are more than 4.3 billion devices connected to the internet in this current day and age.